I was having a discussion with one of my sisters, and we were talking about the way we do one another as a people. And right now, in the midst of what I'm doing right now, looking to get some work done around the house on my central air unit. And I talked to two separate black guys about doing the work while they were here. Neither of these guys went in the attic and looked at anything up in the attic, but both of them on two different companies told me the same thing. Well, you need to change everything out. Didn't take a look at anything in the attic, but told me it needed to be changed out, everything. One of the guys, about 3 years ago, my unit was cutting on and cutting off. He came out, looked at the unit on the back of the house, and he told me that the unit was bad. And he just happened to have one on the back of his truck that he could replace it with, and of course charged me for it. Well, that same evening after he left, my air conditioning unit was doing the exact same thing that it had done before he changed it out. I called him back, and then he decided to go up in the attic. Oh, well, here's the problem up here, is what he told me. So he fixed the problem up in the attic, but he never refunded my money, never told me he made a mistake, and he went on about his business. So guess what? His card went after that day. And I always advocate trying to do business amongst each other. As much as I advocate for it, we make it really hard for us to do business with one another because our customer service is terrible in many cases. And we think because we share the same skin color that we're allowed to treat one another that way. And it's unfortunate. There was once a hardware store near my house, and when you went in, the guy that owned the place used language as if he was a sailor in the Navy, and just not professional at all. Older guy as well. And all of these guys I mentioned so far are all gentlemen who are older than me, old enough to be my father in some cases. And I remember I worked for this company, large retail office supply company. And at the time I worked for them, there were plenty of other black managers at the time. And every time a black person came up for a promotion, they always would make them take a lateral move. But in the process, they would actually give them a pay raise. So in the system, if anybody was to ever question, they say, we did promote him. See, look at the bump in salary. And I told these guys, I said, look, I said, if they ever play those games with me, I'm going to the EEOC. And kept having all of these issues. You know, one guy came in, happened to be a white guy. He came in as a temporary hire when we were remodeling the store I was managing. I shouldn't say managing, I was one of the managers at the store. And a few months later, this guy had received a promotion higher than me. I was working long hours. I was going in early. I was staying late every day of the week, working 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And I went to the district manager and, I confronted him about it. And he tried to give me all these excuses as to why this guy was able to be promoted. And he told me I didn't know the background of the guy. And I had talked to the guy, so I knew his background. But I went to the EEOC. I contacted the EEOC because they tried to play those games with me. There were a few other incidents as well. And I really got a lesson, because I was in my early 20s at the time this happened. I really got a lesson on us as a people. Because we talk a good game, but when it comes time for action, we all of a sudden disappear. We get like Casper, the friendly ghost. And so the EEOC actually set an appointment for me to come in. Me and all of these other managers to come in and meet with them. I called each one of these guys to meet me downtown that day. And when I got downtown, I sat there to the very last minute because I thought they might have had trouble parking. Not one of them showed up for their grievances. But they talked a good game up until that point. And I went in to the EEOC and met with them on my own. And it came back, they actually gave me the right to sue the company I was working for. And many of you would know the company if I mention their name. They're still around today. Well, when the EEOC gave me the right to sue, me trying to still support black-owned businesses and other blacks, I asked the guy that worked with me if he knew any good attorneys, and he said, man, my brother owns his own law firm, and he handles cases like this. And I said, great, give me his contact information. So I go to the brother's office, and I meet with him, and then set up another appointment to come back, and all of a sudden he wasn't available. So I met with his partner. And when I went in and introduced myself, the very first thing out of his partner's mouth was, well, it's going to be a $10,000 retainer fee. And I said, okay, do you have it? I said, of course I have it. I said, but I'm not giving it to you. I said, because you haven't even asked me about my case or anything. The only thing you want to know is if I have the retainer fee up front. And years later, I ran into the guy that recommended his brother's firm, and he said, yeah, my brother told me he didn't really want to take your case because discrimination cases are hard to win. I said, well, when you ask me for a $10,000 retainer fee up front, I expect you to have a little bit more confidence in your own abilities. And so, that went nowhere because I wasn't giving them my money because I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. And so, I've had other people come around and do work for me that black. Like I said, I've tried to hire black as much as I can. And guy came by, bought a brand new door, and called somebody I knew that used to work for Home Depot and had started his own little company, and asked him to come install a door for him. I'd rather pay him the money than Home Depot. Well, he shows up at my house, and then he asked me, did I have the spray foam, the insulation foam? And I'm like, well, I would have thought you would have came prepared with all your stuff. Oh, I forgot some of my stuff. So, me, trying to be a nice guy, I go buy some spray foam. And when I get back, he had put the door up. And he used these huge nails to put my frame back around the door, which cracked my frame. And I have all these big ugly nail heads in my door frame. And so that was another one scratched off the list of ever doing any work for me. And so it just becomes old hat, for lack of a better term, that I'm really getting sick and tired of it. There's a guy I know runs his own small engine repair shop, and go up there, and I took a weed eater up at one time. And first of all, I don't like going to do business with people that's using all of this foul language while I'm spending my money with you. But there's guys that work there using all this foul language. You have to leave your product overnight or 2-3 days, whatever. And the weed eater the guy charged me $40 to fix the weed eater. I used the weed eater 2 times after that, and it broke again, the very same thing. And so I never went back there. And I found a white guy, and he'll work on it 15-20 minutes. And if it's not worth fixing, he'll tell you it's not worth fixing. And he won't charge you for the time he spent finding out that it's not worth fixing. I was there one day, and couple of black guys, of course, were talking and they using all this foul language. He immediately stopped what he was doing and said, "Gentlemen, we don't use that type of language around here." You see the difference? And we just have it real bad that we treat each other bad. I don't know if we think we're just trying to get over, but if you do people right, they'll send more business your way. If you do people wrong, I don't care. Well, I don't know how the rest of y'all can do it, but me, I'm not going to spend my money with you again. Years later, I went back as a vendor to the same office supply company that I used to be a manager for. And I was a vendor for the furniture products on the floor, sales floor. And because I had spent so many time as a manager for this company, I started out as a college student and worked my way up through management. And that's when I plateaued. Of course, they didn't want to promote me to the higher levels. And because I knew the way I was treated, and I knew the way other blacks were treated within this company, when I would go into the stores that black managers, I did a good job for everybody, make no mistake about it. But when I went into the stores that had head black managers, or head general managers, however you want to call it, I always tried to pay a little bit more attention to detail in there, because I know how hard it was for me and the other blacks that had come before them years before. It wasn't in my job responsibility, but when they had a customer that wanted to come in and buy furniture, I would deal with that customer for them. If whatever decision that customer made, I would go pull that furniture for the customer. I would bring that furniture to the cash register for that customer, and I would actually load the furniture in their vehicle for them as well. That wasn't in my job description, but I called myself helping. I paid extra detail to everything I did in the store for those managers. And my district manager called me one day, who's a white guy. And he said, "Myron, I need to meet you. I got some issues I need to resolve with you." And so he met me at a location that I was at that day, and he had paperwork in his hand. He had written me up. And I said, "Well, what's this?" He said, "Well, I talked to some of your managers that you deal with, and they said all you do is come in here and read all day. You don't do any work. All you do in that store is just read. And if anybody knows me, I'm a reader." I said, "You knew I was a reader when you met me." I said, "But let's make something clear." I said, "My visit is a 4 to 4.5 hour visit in these stores." I said, "That's the contract y'all made with the furniture companies. Y'all told us we cannot leave that store in less than 4 hours." I said, "I'm efficient at my work." I said, "So I'm normally through with my work after about an hour and a half to 2 hours. I said, I can't leave, so I need to do something. I can't talk to the employees. I have to do something while I'm in here." I said, "It's not 4 hours worth of work for me anymore." And he said, "So yeah, I read." I said, "But I help their customers while I'm in there." He said, "Well, they told me, each one of them told me, you don't do anything but read. You don't do anything else. You don't build furniture for them." And I said, "All of it's lies." I said, "And you came here with a write-up before you ever talked to me." And so I knew at that point the writing was on the wall. It was time for me to go. And all of the complaints, guess who they came from? Black managers. And at the time, one of my mentors was still living. I told him about the situation. And he said, "Myron," he said, "let me ask you a question." He said, "You had one new car already." He said, "And you were driving, that your wife drove." He said, "And you were driving an old car." I said, "Yeah, I drove the old car because, it was no big deal to me. As long as my wife was in a safe vehicle, that's what I was concerned about." I said, "The old car didn't matter to me." I said, "It just got to a point where I didn't need to spend any more money on it." He said, "And that's right. That's what I'm saying." He said, "You went got a secondary new car, right?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "When you went got the second car, I guarantee you that's when all of your problems started." I said, "Yeah, how did you know that?" He said, "Because we don't want to see each other do well. We want you to do okay, but we don't want you to do as good as us." He said, "And they just couldn't believe you had 2 new vehicles. He said, and they didn't want that. So they were trying to do everything they could to destroy you in your career. Now, my mentor, that mentor, he passed about 7 years. No, matter of fact, it's been 8 years now, 2010. And when he passed, he was 81 years old. But he was full of wisdom. And he said, yeah, he said, black folks don't like to see other black folks do well. They don't mind you doing well, but they don't want you to do better than them or even think that you're doing better than them. He said, that's when all your problems. He said, long as you were driving that old car, he said, you had no problems out of those guys. He said, it only came when you got that other vehicle. And I said, yeah, you're right. He said, I know it. He said, I'm telling you, just listen to what you're telling me. And so I decided at that moment I was going to go ahead and leave. But I wanted to let everybody know I was leaving on my terms. It wasn't the company forcing me out. It was just write-ups. And over 7 years with that company, I had just come off of a job review, where I got above average on everything. And a month later, I was getting write-ups every 2 weeks. You figure that one out. My review came right around the time I bought that other car. And after that, like I said, every couple weeks, I was getting written up for something some black manager said I was not doing. And I called one of the guys, and I told him, I said, yeah, man, I said, you know, it's been nice working with you. And I said, I've gotten written up because, you know, apparently word has went around that I don't do anything. I'm lazy. And nobody knew what my job description was. And he said, well, Myron, he said, gonna miss you, I just can't believe that, hate that it happened. I said, well, I find it kind of ironic. I said, because your name was at the top of the list when it was said somebody complained on me. And he said, oh, Myron, I got to go. A customer called me. And so, he never denied it, but he was the guilty party and didn't want to own up to it. And, these are just things that we deal with constantly. I just released a book, I guess about 3 months ago. Well, it might show up as 3 months ago, but it really wasn't released. Some things happened and I had to pull it back off the market in December. And so it technically hasn't been on the market for a full 3 months yet. Because when they took it off the market, it was taken off the market for another 2 weeks. And one of the things, for years I've talked about the book. I wrote the book most of the time recovering from 2 foot surgeries. And, when I would go out, with my hospital shoes on, I was in hospital shoes so long I had to keep getting new ones because they were breaking. And people that knew me, well, when's the book coming out? When's the book coming out? I said, well, I'll let you know when it's available. And now that the book is available, these very same people who said they wanted to support me are nowhere to be found. The ones that did say it, they want to buy it, congratulations, and they move on. But no purchase of the book. And I figured, this is just me thinking, as long as it was on me not having the book, it became real easy to say, I'm going to buy your book. Let me know when it's available. Because I believe they were actually hoping that the book never became available, and then they could blame me for not following through on my end, and they could say, well, if you would have ever wrote the book, I would have bought it, but since you didn't write it, I can't buy it. And now that the book is available, everything falls back on them holding up to their end of the obligation, and now they're not willing to do that. And by the way, the name of the book is But Hey, What Do I Know? You can buy it at my site by the same name, www.butheywhatdoiknow.com. You can buy it at Amazon in hardback, paperback, or ebook. You could buy it at my site the same way. You could buy it at Barnes & Noble the same way. And it is available. 221 reading pages. But hey, what do I know? And I talk about a lot of our behavior as a people in this book. But I also talk about behavior of other cultures to a small degree. And what I'm looking to accomplish with this book is I want to point out our behavior, and, because I believe if we're going to advance as a people, we need to change our behavior. We need to change our attitude. We need to change our mentality. We need to change our mindset. And if other people that look at us a certain way because of society's perceptions, they need to understand why we might act the way we do in some situations. And they need to understand why they do some of the things they do. And nothing's ever 100%. Because all people aren't bad, all aren't good. And that's on both sides of the black, white, Hispanic, Asian, anything else culture. This inferior and superior thought process is messing everybody up. And so, I look at all of these things, and, we want to sit here and we want to talk about, buy black, support black-owned businesses. And, I believe outside of my sisters, I don't believe anybody else in my family has my book. I don't think they attempting to even buy it. And, but so be it. That's the way it is. It goes back to what my older mentor said. They want to see you succeed, but they're not going to play any part in helping you do it. And we can see that all day long. And, but the moment they come up with something, they're looking for you to support their endeavors. And so, this is just a rant. I just decided to do something on a whim, and look for something later. We'll talk to you later.